again. Welcome to today's attempt of a Fibble puzzle. This is Wordle, but there's a liar in every row. So maybe the M is lying. But if it is, should it be yellow or green? Or maybe the O, I, S or T is the one that's lying. The only way to find out is to play. It's auto-populated that first guess, and I'm going to make use of the fact that the S and the T are both not grey by keeping them there and seeing if we learn anything useful. Wow! Okay, we do learn something useful. They've both changed colour, so clearly one of them's got to be lying here and one of them's got to be lying here. So that means either it's that way round, in which case we haven't got an S, we have got a T somewhere, or it's the other way round, in which case we've got an S but not a T. But what we do know is we've definitely ruled out all 6 of these letters, so we haven't got an E, I or O. So I think I should try the A and the U. We also know that the T can't be the last letter, because I was going to try haunt to test the A and the U, but if the T was last it would be lying here and here, because it should be green, and that can't be correct because then the S would be inconsistent with itself. So we've got to think of a word that uses A and U but also doesn't end in T. Or we go the other way around, we put an S in there somewhere. I don't want to go for sauna, I don't want to duplicate a letter. There's got to be a word though. Maybe I just go for one of those two, A or U, and see what happens. Let's go for sadly. If we're not going to test A and U, let's at least use the Y as well. That's very helpful, I think. I think it probably means that we were correct to have the S rather than the T. Trouble is I don't know what is lying on this guess. I mean, the A could be lying just because it could be actually in the correct position. Maybe it's meant to be green. But if it is green, then we do need to use the D and the S, and I'm not sure that's going to work. Maybe the S is lying because it's meant to be the first letter. But then again, how are we going to fit the A and the D in? It would have to be S blank A-D-Y. To be fair, it's probably just most likely that we don't have a Y, because S, A and D are all relatively common letters. But the trouble is the S is becoming pretty restricted, because it couldn't be first or fourth if my assumptions are correct, and it does tend not to be last because they tend not to have plurals. And I don't know how I would find a word. Everything I think of, like hands or wands, the A is second, so then that would be lying as well. So I'm less confident that the Y is lying. Let's go back to our other train of thought. We don't have an S. That would mean we've got a T, A and D. How are we going to get the A into position? Blank, blank, A, blank, Y? But then we would have to fit the T and the D in there somewhere. It just doesn't feel like it's going to work. I think I was more confident with that configuration, because at least this way it's possible we don't have an A or a D. Dusky, I suppose, would work. Dusty is a much more common word, but I'm pretty confident that we can't have the T anymore. Oh, everything is yellow! Okay, surely we haven't got a K, so that means we have got an A, because otherwise we've just got no vowels. I suppose the A still could be lying, because it could be in that position. Oh no, but it can't, because the S can't be first, third or fourth. The S has got to be second in that case. That doesn't seem reasonable. What's the other option? If there's no Y, that means we've got to use S, K, A and D. How are we going to do that? It feels like the Y has got to be true. Maybe we don't have a D, then we've got to use ASK. But again, the S would have to be second. What's the other option? Maybe we just go back to that A being a liar, because it should be in the correct position. But then it just doesn't work. Where on earth is the S going in this word? If the Y is lying twice, we've got to think of a word that uses ADSK. Is that remotely plausible? Asked? No, because we can't have an E. We definitely can't have an E. We could have a duplicated A, but I don't quite see how that's going to work. So that means that the Y isn't lying. So if the Y isn't lying, what on earth is lying? The U can't be lying, because then we've got to use D, U, S, K and Y. So it would have to be the word dusky. The E, I and O are not lying because of the business with the S and the T. So the only vowel we can possibly use is the A. I don't think there's a world in which there's an answer to this that's only got a Y. You would have to have a duplicated Y as well. I don't think that's going to work. So we've definitely got a Y. And it can't be second, because the S now has to be second unless it's lying somewhere else. It just feels like we can't have a D. But if we can't have a D, then there's an S there, and then the K has to be there because it can't be first or fourth. So it would have to be like that. Or maybe the A is first as well, or first instead. That's not a word. What's the other option? That means there's definitely a D. The other option is that the K is lying, and then one of these is lying because it's in the right place. Okay, so maybe the S is lying because it is first. That would mean we've got to use a D and an A. Neither of them can be second. So it would have to be that, and it's going to be shady, isn't it? Wow. I do feel like I should have solved that quicker. I don't know where I went wrong in my assumptions. I definitely assumed that the S could be lying at some point, didn't I? Maybe I assumed the A could be green, but I never considered what would happen if the S was green. Maybe that's what happened. Either way, we got there in the end. Took me only 4 guesses. That's not too bad. It just took me a lot of time. So thank you if you stuck with me to the end, and well done if you solved it quicker than I did, which you probably did. That is Fibble. That was a struggle. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.